phone is ringing. It sounds like we're doing a radio show.
Hey!
Since my incredible engineer is saying, go, go, it must mean we started. I'm here today with Eric Jenkins, Keller Williams, realtor. You want to say hello?
Hello.
Yeah, the good thing about having Eric is that he's so dynamic and has such great speaking skills, and he really adds to the programming. Do you want to talk about your business at all?
Hi, Eric Jenkins, realtor, Keller Williams. My direct line anytime, 727-409-3484. In the future, when you have any real estate questions, you're welcome to give me a call. I double dare you.
Eric is a great realtor, and I am also a realtor. We work at different companies. I have a company called Florida Real Estate Partners, and Eric has a company called Keller Williams. And we're brothers, just in case you didn't figure that out. I'm Randal Jenkins, and this is the Randal Jenkins Radio Hour here on Tan Talk Radio Network, WTAN 106.1 FM and 1340 AM. WDCF 102.3 and 1350 AM. Thank you for watching. We're going to talk real estate. So if you go onto my YouTube page, it's called Randal Jenkins Real Estate. I have quite a bit of content. And one of the pieces of content that I have is called 25 Real Estate Tips. And we're going to go through these real estate tips, and we're going to talk about the implications and the wisdom and maybe some things that aren't so wisdomful. That's not the right word. Not so smart. So number one, in no particular order, in the sale of your property, you are required to disclose information that you may not know. Eric, do you have anything to say about disclosing information that you may not know if you're a seller?
Well, what a segue that was. I mean, ultimately, I've heard that you can't disclose something that you don't know. Isn't that right, Randy?
Yes, but your contract says that you will disclose things. How can you disclose what you don't know?
Well, you might need to hire a professional that is going to help you disclose what needs to be disclosed.
Let's talk about some of the issues that are on the list of things that you might have to disclose that you don't know.
Well, that could be settlement issue.
Well, if you don't know that you have a home with settlement issues, it's likely because you didn't get disclosed when you bought it. So how can you disclose what you don't know?
Because you hire a professional.
So along with disclosing whether your home has had settlement issues, you're also required to disclose if any home's contiguous to your home. The house in front, the one on both sides. You don't have to disclose when they're across the street. How do you know if the home next door has had a settlement issue?
Well, you can call the county and you can go on their website to the property appraiser site. You can pull it up on some of the counties and put the address in there and see if they have any permits pulled for settlement issue.
And a permit pull doesn't necessarily mean a repair.
No, it doesn't.
Should we stay on this or should we move on to the next item that you should have to disclose?
Let's move on to the next item.
We actually may have a guest today, Johnny Bazinski. Johnny B is a settlement / sinkhole / seawall expert. And if he gets in here in time for our second or third segment, we can revisit the settlement / sinkhole phenomenon. Now, there's another issue that must be disclosed, and that's regarding permits. You must disclose any unpermitted work done to your home, whether you did it or one of the previous owners did it.
Have you ever run into that problem before, Randy?
Oh, yes.
Tell me more.
ultimately, this becomes a negotiating opportunity. If they haven't disclosed and you discover it, and that's why a good buyer's agent is important, but if you discover that they have not disclosed, it now becomes an opportunity to get a better price or to get concessions. So if you did buy a home and it had unpermitted work and you didn't know about it, what are the implications?
You tell me.
The implications are that you bought it, you own it, it's your problem. The idea that you can say, oh, well, it was like this when I bought it, is a great response, but it doesn't take off the challenge of you having unpermitted work or a permit that's not been closed out. But the contract does say that you have to disclose any unpermitted work. It does not say you have to close out the permits. And that's why if you've got a good buyer's agent, every offer you make should include the line, seller to close out any open permits. All right, let's talk about the financing contingency. In the purchase of a home, you have a blank that says, if left blank, then 30 days. And this has to do with the financing contingency. So if you go into a transaction with the idea that you're going to pay for it using a bank's money or a lender's money, you have 30 days, if left blank, to let the seller know that you have received your final approval. But you may not have your final approval at 30 days. So at 29 days, you had better be reaching out to the seller or the seller's agent, asking for an extension or withdrawing from the contract. Because if you become a cash buyer when you have financing, you will likely lose your deposit if you haven't performed, if you haven't been able to get that financing done. Number 3, in no particular order, you cannot retail your home if it won't pass a 4-point inspection.
Is it possible to do it where you pay a premium in insurance?
Yes. But what I put on here was you can't retail your home. Retail kind of sort of means an end buyer that is likely getting financing. And if your home won't pass inspection, if the buyer cannot buy it because they can't buy insurance, then your home is unretailable. Is that a word?
Yeah.
So here's the challenge. If you decide that you're not going to accept that buyer, you have to disclose to the next buyer, oh, by the way, it failed the roof inspection. You can't get regular insurance. The kind of insurance you can get is known as a builder's risk policy. And lenders won't let you buy a home. Actually, you know what? That's not true. Can you tell me when it's not true?
I can't.
You can't. If you get a loan, a 403k, or a home style renovation loan, or the VA renovation loan, you can get insurance approved by the lender if it's a renovation loan. And you know, on renovation loans, and we can spend a lot of time on it, we won't, but on renovation loans, it's the answer to one of the questions that people say, what do I do if it doesn't appraise? You could convert the loan to a renovation loan and have the property reappraised based on improvements, which may get you over the hump of the failure to appraise. So if anyone says, is there anything I can do if it doesn't appraise? And the answer is yes. You can get it appraised again. You can challenge the appraisal. You can
get a renovation loan.
Change to a renovation loan, add some improvements to it that will allow it to appraise.
That's awesome.
All right, surveys. When you get a survey at the time of the transaction, title insurance covers the boundary lines and any potential disputes. So if you're buying a home, always make sure that you receive the the survey in time to include it as part of the closing package. And that way the title insurance will cover the survey.
What if you don't do that?
If you don't get a survey,
Yeah. And
then your
cash
title
buyer.
insurance is not going to cover any boundary disputes.
Wow.
The thing about it is without getting too deep into it, there's different kinds of legal descriptions. There's meets and bounds, and then there's block and lot. On block and lot, you're pretty safe not having a survey. But if you've got one of those legal descriptions that says, starting from a waypoint at 3/4 of a mile from this spot, go northeast 265 feet. Go, it doesn't say go right, but it says on a new direction at 270 degrees, go 150 feet. And that is a survey that you definitely want to have as part of your purchase so that you don't have any problem with the survey in the future or the boundary lines in the future.
Wow.
Fences between neighbors. You want to know where your lines are. Always, number 5, always get your title policy at the beginning of the sales process. Generally, they're not doing that. Title companies are waiting to make sure that they're sure that the transaction is going to proceed. They don't want to order a title policy to find out that the transaction is not going to happen. Generally, it takes 2 to 6 weeks to close a property sale, and sometimes minor title issues will arise. And some are fixable, but some of them may take time. It's not a good idea to find out you have a title issue when you're closing tomorrow. Number 6, don't just ask for closing fees. So in the past, I have done a few transactions. And some of these transactions, we as a seller agreed that we would pay closing fees. Sometimes they'll ask for as much as 6% in closing fees. And sometimes the sellers are willing to do this to get the property sold. Here's the thing. Every now and then, the lender won't allow 6%. They'll only allow 4 or 5% or whatever it is, 3%. The lender will say, we're only allowing this much in closing fees. But if you ask for 6% in closing fees, then you blew a big opportunity. What the wording should be is, buyer requests 6% concession for closing fees, prepaids, and or price reduction.
Smart.
Because if you don't, I've gone to closings.
I've had it happen.
Where I've gone to where the title company goes, the lender's not letting them take 6%. I'm like, nice. And what happens?
Seller gets more money.
Seller gets more money because this closing fees are all they asked for. You must ask for closing fees, prepaids, and or price reduction, and that will get you the full 6% concession. The seller's willing to give it to you. You just can't take it because your contract didn't, the wording was not good on the contract.
An experienced realtor.
This is how you learn,
Yeah.
by making mistakes.
Yeah.
All right, treat every document as if you have to defend it in court. Of course. That's a big thing that's going on right now. People are getting these DocuSigns and they're not reading the contract. They're assuming that the realtor is protecting them maybe, or the realtor read it, or who knows what they're thinking. But the realtor is not an attorney. And if you ask some very good questions, the realtor should say, I'm not an attorney. You need to ask an attorney these questions. This is, I talk about it a lot, how you're a realtor, stay in your lane. The lender is the lender. He'll stay in his lane or she'll stay in her lane. The title company will stay in their lane. But how do you counsel a buyer or a seller regarding a 13-page contract when you're not allowed to explain the contract? And then you send them a DocuSign and they sign it. They don't know what they sign. That's that challenge with the number 1, Or number two, when we talked about you must disclose what you don't know. If you sign that contract and you don't know what you signed, how would you know if you have to disclose something or not? You didn't read it. All right, number 8, and this was written, I don't know how many years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and we already covered a little bit on this, but this pull permits on every house you are considering. The seller is not required to close out open permits. They're only required to disclose open permits. So the wording on every buyer's contract should say, seller to close out open permits. Now, it's okay to buy homes with open permits as long as you get a concession on the price. If you figure, oh, it's going to cost me 10 grand to fix this problem, well, you better ask for $15,000 or $20,000 if you're going to accept a home that hasn't passed every permit or if there's open permits. Okay, tax assessed value changes from your transaction. Every transaction allows the tax assessor to revalue the home. And I've lost transactions over this, but a lot of times buyers are not aware. They say this taxes on this home are only, $1,500. Not realizing that that tax assessed value is based on that buyer's purchase and on the tax assessed value based on the property appraiser's analysis of it the day before the transaction and earlier. You don't know what the new tax assessed value is going to be based on your new transaction. I had one, the taxes were $4,500 a year. And the buyer and I discussed that it was going to go higher, and he wanted to know how much higher. And on some county websites, tax assessor sites, you can put in a what if. What if the transaction was done at
this price,
400 grand on a house that was 2.25? And on the specific example that I'm remembering, the taxes went from 4,500 to 8,500. And the buyer said, I can't afford that. And lenders are not counseling their borrowers either on the implications of houses being re-tax assessed. This wasn't a big problem back in 2008 or 2009 when tax assessed values were dropping. But now with the demand and the budgets for these counties, the tax assessed values, I've seen tax assessed values that are just mind-boggling. How is this $250,000 home when you wouldn't pay 100 grand for it, or a mobile home on a lousy lot? There's lots of examples of people who've had. The fact is, you can go hang out in the tax assessor's office. You go in there for something, and you'll hear people all day long coming in. I just bought this house. Now you're telling me I got to pay this in taxes. All day long, people in the tax assessor's office are dealing with this. Number 10, one of my favorites, sewage line camera inspections. So I'm not an expert. I wish Johnny B was here. He would know. He's replaced lots of sewage lines. So cast iron sewage pipes last 40 or 50 years. So that means if you're buying a house built in the 1970s, your sewage line is likely not up to snuff. It's likely got roots in it. It's got rust. It's
cracked.
And
roots are growing in it.
So for $500 or $600 or $650, you can do a sewage line camera inspection. And I think every 1970s home that hasn't been remediated is going to fail. And what that means is that you have a potential $10,000 or $15,000 disaster in front of you. And what happens is a guy lived in the house by himself and it worked fine. My phone is making noise. So anyway, a family of 4 moves into the house, and the next thing you know, it's backing up into the showers and into the toilet, and you've got this terrible nightmare. That $550 or $650 that you spend on a sewage line inspection is golden. I did one not too long ago where it failed. Half the sewage line was collapsed. I mean, it still flushed. The water went through. You could see it on the camera that it was working. The problem is that it wasn't working great. So you do the sewage line inspection. If it fails, it doesn't mean you have to fix it. What it means is that you should get a concession. And if it's $15,000, and it can be more, if they got beautiful tile floors and you got to cut it up to get into the back bathroom, it's a disaster. And the sewage line inspection, for me as a buyer's agent, I want my buyer to get this inspection. And if they don't get it, you know what I want them to do?
Sign a document that says
signing something that says I told them to get it.
All right.
My YouTube video screenshot for this says, get the seller to pay for this before closing and avoid the crap. Am I going to get in trouble for saying it's my second time on the radio? I said,
no.
Okay. My engineer's smiling at me and laughing.
You're okay.
Should I be taking a break soon? Or are we good? Anytime? Never. I'm never letting go. This is my microphone. He's going to click the button and I'll be off. Zing. All right. If you're a buyer and you don't get a loan estimate in 3 days, you have a problem. So if you read my book, hold my book up, the Realtoring in the Time of Ghosting.
Where's your camera?
I don't know. We're on it. Anyway, here, I'll hold it. So I coach realtors, and here's my book. And I have a whole chapter on the question that nobody asks. And this has to go back to the fact that we're, as realtors, told to stay in our lane. And that means we don't go into the mortgage broker's lane, and we don't go into the title company's lane. And I disagree. I actually have a mortgage broker's license. So I am happy to share with you that if you're buying a property, you're going to get a loan estimate in 3 days. Now, you may not get it, but your loan estimate is going to give you a good faith estimate of all of your closing fees. And sometimes, and maybe I should have started with this, but any realtor who's been in the business for any length of time is going to go to, especially listing agents, we go to a closing or we see the closing documents and we see that the customer is getting whacked, that they're getting crushed by the fees. Mm-hmm. And I've had lots of conversations with title companies over the years where I go, did you see the fees the mortgage broker charged? And they're like, oh my gosh. And we're all in awe of the fact that this poor buyer had no idea what the fees were. Now, how is that possible? Because by law, they're supposed to get a loan estimate in 3 days. If you don't get a loan estimate, you're not going to know what the fees are. And then when you go to closing, see, if you get the loan estimate, you bring the loan estimate to closing, or you're supposed to get the closing documents ahead of time. And you can look at the closing documents and you look at the loan estimate and you can say, well, this isn't what he quoted or she quoted. And you can go back and renegotiate the fees. But when you're at the closing table and your bags are packed and your U-Haul is full, and read my book. In my book, in 1985, I bought my first house and I got whacked. And I looked over at my realtor and I said, what do I do? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, I can't help you. If you sign these documents, I get that check. And it was your buddy. Do you remember him, that guy?
Nope.
Yeah, you
dubbed
did.
this out.
Yeah. Anyway, that was my first experience in real estate. And that was the first time and last time I got whacked by a mortgage broker. So if you are, and here's something that people don't realize, the mortgage brokerage fees and interest rates and relationship is negotiable. You don't have to take the deal they offered. I worked at Rocket Mortgage for years, and I was not able to give anyone a good deal, but I was able, to take the loan estimate from another lender and
beat
submit it. It was called the meet or beat. So to get the best deal on, hey, you want to buy a Ford Explorer, you go to 3 different Ford dealerships, you negotiate against each other. The same thing can happen with a mortgage brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
You can negotiate those fees. You can get a better deal, and you deserve it. And realtors aren't trained for this. But in my marketing group of realtors that I will spend some time talking about, we talk a lot about making sure that our buyers aren't beat up by greedy vendors who take advantage. You want to add anything there, Mr.?
No, let's go to a commercial break.
It looks like we're going to a commercial. Thank you.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Are you looking for a job? Join me, Gene Hod, on the Employment Opportunity Hour from 7 to 8 p.m., where I will tell you and share with you, as well as answer all of your questions and help you find enjoyable employment instead of a job. This is the only talk show that talks about everyone who makes up our workforce. Join me on the Employment Opportunity Hour from 7 to 8 p.m. on the Employment Opportunity Hour.
That's the Employment Opportunity Hour, Wednesday nights from 7 to 8 p.m. on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Thinking about starting your own business? Then you need to listen to the Entrepreneur Opportunity Hour from 6 to 7 p.m. There's nothing more rewarding than starting your own business. Gene will bring you tips and advice from themselves and other entrepreneurs that will help you get started. Have you already started your own business? Then call in and share your story to help other entrepreneurs. That's the Entrepreneur Opportunity Hour from 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
That's the Entrepreneur Opportunity Hour, Wednesdays from 6 to 7 right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
And we're back. Look up.
Hey, we're back.
You can't see us. We can't see us, but if you hold your head up, your mom might recognize you.
Hello.
When I played this for her, it was like 6 or 7 minutes into it. I said, "You do realize that's Eric and I?" She goes, "No, it's not." I'm like, "Mom, I'm the one in the yellow shirt." Well, now I'm in the blue. Mom, I'm the one in the blue shirt.
Mom, look at me.
All right, we're doing these 25 real estate tips from my YouTube channel, Randal Jenkins Real Estate. And number 12 is actually a renovation loan will work for all homes, including move-in ready homes. So you have to ask yourself, why would you do a renovation loan on a move-in ready home?
I don't know. Why?
Well, everybody who buys a home, the first thing they do is make upgrades and improvements, right?
Yeah.
So let's say, once I buy it, I'm going to put 30 grand into this and I'm going to do these 9 things and I can't wait to get involved. Well, how would you like to have the 30 grand built into your long-term mortgage at 6 or 6.5%?
That's great.
As opposed to taking the 30 grand out of your pocket. So anyway, a renovation loan, we decided works on homes that don't appraise. Renovation mortgage or loan works on homes that need work, and they work on homes that are move-in ready where the borrower, the buyer, wants to make improvements. Number 13, when you extend one deadline, extend them all. There are 4 important deadlines. Is anyone in the class want to share with us what these deadlines are? Eric?
They're important deadlines. Very important.
All right. The deposit is due in how many days?
Contract states it on page 1. If it's blank, it's 3 days.
The inspection period?
What'd you say?
Inspection?
If it's left blank, it's 15 days.
Financing?
If it's left blank, it's 30 days.
And I know you don't know this one. Title?
15 days.
From?
The executed contract.
No, we have a
75%. Pretty good. That's a C.
If you read the contract, it says the title work must be provided a certain number of days before closing.
Oh, 3 days.
No.
5. 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Pull
7,
up a
9.
contract and let's share that. I didn't write it down, but it is a
It is a
requirement
date. Yeah.
that the title is given to the buyer prior to the closing and allowing them to inspect the title. And the interesting thing that I didn't even know until recently, if you have an objection to one of the issues in the title, you must contest that in writing. Nobody does this.
Mhm.
They all assume the title's fine. But if you read these title policies, and you almost have to be an attorney to read them, the title policy has exceptions. And these aren't deal killers, but they are in writing. And you will sign and you will accept it. And then you'll say later, wait a minute, did I accept that?
Mm.
And in theory, you were supposed to get that title policy in advance, have an opportunity to review it. And then I've actually seen situations where sophisticated buyers went through and said, look, I don't want this, I don't want that, and I don't want that. And the title company removed those. So anyway,
Exceptions.
the point is, when extending one deadline, extend them all. So if you have an extension, well, generally you're going to be asking for extensions after the deposit date. So that's probably not going to be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do an inspection and there's a problem with the inspection, and we need to talk about the inspection, this is a big, big deal. But if you have an issue with the inspection, you're not able to come to an agreement, and you say, I need an extension for the inspection. And then you must put in their wording that says a 7-day extension for inspection, 7 days add to financing, and 7 days extra for the title. Treat them as drop dead dates. Put them on the calendar at the effective date of your contract. When extending one deadline, extend them all. And you'll see this from a lot of listing agent, what do they call them, the people that help them?
Transaction coordinators.
Transaction coordinators are great at this stuff. They live and die by that calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a realtor that has a transaction coordinator, that's a good thing. All right, number 15. Cash buyers should still get an appraisal.
I don't know.
This is controversial because cash buyers generally don't get an appraisal. The appraisal contingency gives you a way out. It also can allow you to renegotiate price. The $500 you spend on an appraisal could be worth more than, it could be worth thousands of dollars that you might save.
Mm-hmm.
You can close if it appraises lower, or you can get a price decrease, or you might can get a concession, maybe not a cash concession, but certainly a concession on the price. Number 16, the listing agent works for the
Seller.
Good. We have a winner. And this is a particularly interesting time with these buyer-broker agreements. Buyers don't want to sign the buyer's broker agreement because they don't want to be on the hook to pay the commission if the seller won't pay the commission. So a lot of buyers are going to the listing agent and buying the homes. What are the problems with that?
Well, when a listing agent signs a seller up, depending on the listing agent's business model, will more than likely there'll be a transactional broker, or there'll be single agent and work for the seller with the right to migrate to being a transactional broker. So most realtors are different. The way I operate is I'm a single agent with the right to transition to being a transactional broker. So if you list with me and a buyer calls me and wants to see the home, I have the right to show them the home. And then if I represent the buyer, then I don't work directly for the seller as I did before. My job changes a wee bit, and I don't communicate what I may know about the buyer to the seller, and I don't communicate what I know about the seller to the buyer. I'm now working for the transaction.
This is something that we do not talk about enough. And it comes up when you work really hard to get a listing, and you make all these, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I'm going to be your man in the trenches, and I'm going to find the buyer, and I'm going to work this thing, and I'm going to be your salesman in the trenches to get you the best deal. And then you find out that you found your own buyer. And now all of a sudden that loyalty that you had to your seller is changed. So you're in the middle of this transaction, and they're negotiating, they're going back and forth, and your seller says, well, what do you think I should do? What do you say?
You tell them that you represent the buyer, and it's important that they communicate what they want from the transaction and this part of the transaction.
What you can't say is, well, this buyer's sister lives next door and they really want the house because they want to be near their family member. Well, that motivation will cause the seller to take a harder stance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called a transition to transaction agent. And it's a huge conflict of interest. I mean, it's legal, but someday I think they're going to make it so you can't get both sides of the transaction. And when I'm on a listing appointment, I explain to my potential sellers that it's possible that I might find the buyer. And if I do, then our relationship changes. And it really hasn't been a big issue until I'll tell a story. Everyone wants to hear stories. So my seller says, what do you think I should do?
Mm.
And honestly, I had no idea. I had a type A seller and I had a type A buyer. Everybody was running over me. I don't know what anybody's motivation was. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, you know what? I really don't know what to do. And he goes, are you getting both sides of this? I go, yeah. He goes, you're not helping me anymore. Your loyalty, I lost you on this transaction. I'm like, no, I really don't know what to do, which was true. I mean, my gut told me, everything in my gut told me to say, meet in the middle. I wanted to say, just meet him in the middle. And then he got all mad and he goes, I don't care. I'm not dropping the price. I'm going to stay at this price. And I called the buyer up and I go, well, they're not going to drop any longer. It's this price, take it or leave it. And the guy goes, I'll take it. And he paid that amount.
Right.
But if I had not lost loyalty and I had recommended meet in the middle, it would have been the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who thinks they know what people are going to do, you cannot predict the future. You cannot know what's in somebody else's head. But for me, I would rather stay on just one side of the transaction. I've actually done transactions where I did not want to be the buyer's agent because what they were buying was kind of horrible. And I wanted another realtor in there. You know, who are you going to sue? You're going to sue the realtor. Well, let's get two of us. You go represent that buyer. I'll represent the seller. When you're a mortgage broker and you're a realtor and you flip houses, there's a lot of different ways to get sued. And in that case, in some cases, I don't want to be the buyer's agent. And I think when you're listing your property, you should have this conversation. Now, the way a lot of realtors handle this, and I know you handle it this way too, you say, the commission is X for the listing. We'll negotiate the commission Y for the buyer's agent. But if I get both sides, I'll drop the total commission and save you money. Now what happens is the seller is hoping you get both sides. But do they really understand that they lose loyalty when you do that?
Yes, they know it. They sign a document that says where the change is.
You send them a DocuSign. They sign anything you send in
They
front of them.
signed it. They read it.
They signed it. They didn't read it. All right. You're on your own if you work for the seller's agent. Now, in theory, they in theory, they transition to a transaction agent. And in reality, it's hard not to be loyal to you work so hard to get a listing. You do all your 27 things to get the listing. You work on the listing. You're trying to sell the property. It's hard not to keep being loyal. But if you find the buyer, you are no longer having the same relationship that you had with the seller. And now you have a different relationship with the buyer. There are 8 ways to get more money for your home. Watch my video, 8 ways to get more money for your home. It's on Randal Jenkins Real Estate on YouTube. And we're not going to cover it here. But in one of our future episodes, we will cover that. Don't worry. There are 7 things you must do before you buy a home in Florida. Watch my 7 things you must do before you buy a home in Florida on YouTube at Randal Jenkins Real Estate. Number 19. Are we going to make it?
We have to.
We have 13 minutes. There's 25 of them. The next show, we can do the 26.
No.
All right. Sell your home in round numbers. Who's talking about selling your home in round numbers? $299,000, $699,000, $999,000 are terrible numbers. And the reason is because when people search for a home, they say, find me something at $500,000 to $600,000. Well, if you have your home listed at $499,000, it doesn't show up on the $500,000 to $600,000 list. It shows up on the $400,000 to $500,000 list, and it's the highest priced one on the list.
All right.
But if you listed it at $500,000, you're the lowest house on the list. And every time I see a new listing at something 999, I always think they don't understand how people search on the internet. You search on the internet by range. They don't say, give me everything under 500,000. They say, give me everything 475 to 500. Actually, that's a bad example. The better example is when they say, give me everything from 500 to 525. The 499 missed the list. Dirt roads mean future paving lanes. Number 20.
Good one.
So people think that the county paves the roads, and they do.
After the first one.
After the first paving,
Mm-hmm.
the homeowners pay for the road. So if you're looking at, oh, there's this lot, it's so cheap. My first question is it on a dirt road? Because if it is, the reason it's $20,000 cheaper than the other lots is because you got a $20,000 paving lane someday. Or maybe it'll be way, way in the future when everything's cheap and roads are free. Not. So if you're buying on a dirt road, buy a flag lot because the footage is.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
No,
That's awesome.
you should hang out. I'll teach you.
Flag lot. That's so smart.
A cheap dirt road property may be worth next to nothing when you factor in the future paving lanes.
Wow. Corner lot could be worse.
A corner lot is devastating. You got 100 feet on one side, you got 200 feet on the other side. Don't buy a corner lot on dirt roads.
Gosh.
The other thing about lots are to be sure to get non-flood zones. All right, appraised value number 21 is not what you can sell the home for. Homes are not sold based on appraisals. Homes are sold based on the competition. Your home may be worth every penny of what you think it's worth and never sell. If there are 25 homes in your criteria that are cheaper, your home will not sell unless it's got some kind of great amenity. Homes are sold based on the price that buyers are willing to pay. So how many different ways are there to analyze a valuation of a home? You can pay for an appraisal, and they talk about how if you get 10 appraisers to give you 10 guesstimates of value, you're going to get 10 different numbers. There's the tax assessed value. There's what the seller wants. There's what the buyer is willing to pay. That's why when someone says, oh, no, my home is worth this because the one down the street, yeah, the one down the street was 500 square foot larger, had a swimming pool, was built 20 years earlier. It's elevated. It's, just because it's in your neighborhood does not mean.
Elevated or on stilts?
Good. For those of you who watched last week,
we learned.
If you didn't watch last week, you're going to have to go watch the replay. Number 22, people do not realize how many things are required to buy or sell a home and what order they are to be done. This is all full of advertisements for future content. It says 179 ways agents who are realtors are worth every penny of their compensation. That's Google that and read it, and then you'll get that list. All right, number 23, deed fraud. I almost got sucked into deed fraud again recently.
Easy.
Did I tell you?
No, tell me.
I got a call. The guy's like telling me all this and that and property, and it's a vacant property. And I asked him, what do you want for it? And he goes, well, I don't know what it's worth. You tell me. And that's like a dead giveaway. People who own stuff, they know what they want. They know what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
But what's happening with deed fraud right now is generally, a lot of times it's on vacant land. They'll see that this vacant land's worth some nice number, and they'll hold themselves out to be the seller, but they're not. And in your case, tell your story. Didn't he send you an ID?
Yeah, I had a guy that deed fraud. He didn't own the property, and I was recommended to get a copy of his driver's license. So I called him up. He took the call, and within less than a minute, he had sent over a copy of his driver's license. And then I printed it, and I knew that he owned it. That's good for me. And he didn't.
That was the one that your boss, friend, called in and said, what are you doing selling this property?
Right. I put some signs up there, and then the owner of the property, the real owner, saw the signs and called KW, and they immediately halted that transaction.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a huge problem, deed fraud. If a house is occupied and has a mortgage, you really don't have to worry much about deed fraud. But if you have no mortgage on your property, and by the way, never brag that your home is paid for. Never. You're going to make yourself a target.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if you don't have a mortgage on your property, put one on it.
Good idea.
Just to keep from being a victim of deed fraud.
Mm-hmm.
The information is in the public record, and it's very easy to find this information. Generally, sometimes what happens is they'll create a fraudulent deed and just take the property right out of your name. And then they'll go to a title company and say, I want to sell my property. It's in their name. That's why if you have a lot of property, if you have a lot of vacant land and it's all paid for, you really, really, really need to set up Google searches so that if property with that criteria comes on the market. The problem with doing a Google search is a lot of vacant land does not have an address.
Right.
How do you do a Google search for a piece of property that doesn't have an address?
QSIP number.
Yeah, that's a stockbroker term. You mean parcel ID?
Parcel ID. Whoops.
So what I would do, like, for example, my most recent call was for 6 acres in Hernando County. So if I had that property, I would put in a Google search on 5 to 10 acres in, I think that was Brooksville.
Mm-hmm.
And any new listings that come out, I would get an email. I would have a realtor set it up or do it on a Google search. It might work, but certainly having a realtor sending you all the 5 to 10 acre properties is a good idea so you can monitor the value of your own property.
Right.
And the biggest thing you can do, and I really am not 100% certain on the legality of this, but if Eric, my brother, and I do a deal and I put a mortgage on my own property, they're much likely less to steal a property that has a big mortgage on it. The problem is to record a mortgage, it costs you 7/10. So it's going to cost you $700
per $100,000.
per $100,000. So if you have a $300,000 property, maybe you put a $200,000 lien on it for $1,400, and you do this, the note and the mortgage, you record the mortgage, you get a release at the same time, you put it in your safe deposit box, and then if you ever do want to sell the property. Now, if they do steal the property, that's another thing. If you've got a property you bought 30 years ago or 25 years ago for $300,000 and it's worth, $1 million, and you only owe $50,000 on it, they might decide to pay your mortgage off and steal your property. 3 minutes. Oh, I'm so excited. We did this whole show without a guest, a co-host. So anyway, deed fraud was 23. Oh, use a different title company on a flip. Oh my gosh.
Good idea.
Out of 10,000 transactions, 30,000 transactions, this came up once. It's natural to use the same title company if you're selling a home on a short-term flip or resale. You get the reissue discount even if you use a different title company. That's why people say, oh, you already have the title work. I just sold it 90 days ago. Let's do another transaction. I'll use the same title company.
Mm-hmm.
If the first title company makes a mistake and you use them again, they'll make that mistake again.
Oh.
But if you use a second title company, what'll happen is the first title company will sue the second title company. The second title company will sue the first title company. But if you did a transaction and you sold it through a title company, and then that same title company resold it again, they're going to go through the first deed to the second deed, and they're going to sue everybody that has any money. And that's going to mean you had an opportunity to avoid that. I mean, what are the likelihood that they're going to make a mistake? It happened one time. It got to be a number on my list, and that was number 24. Number 25, when considering to buy or sell, you are just looking. You must be looking at the pendings and the solds and the days on market to be fully informed. Watching the actives to follow the market is not watching the market. The market is the solds. The pendings are the indicators of competition. The days on market is the strength of the criteria. Hey, I'm Randal Jenkins. He's going to cut me off. Follow me on Facebook at Randal Jenkins Florida Real Estate Partners. Follow me on YouTube at Randal Jenkins Real Estate. Follow Eric by looking behind me. I really appreciate my audience. I really thank you for listening. I hope that,
Thanks for listening, Mom.
I'm looking at it. We got one view. Yay.
That's me.
Oh, you're watching on your computer. Thank you.
No one heard it.
WTAN, Clearwater.
FM 106.1.
WDCF, Dade City.
FM 102.3.
Listen.
He's keeping military forces as an option. I'm Tom Graham, Fox News. President Trump says talks with Iran are moving forward, but he's prepared to restart combat operations if needed.
The president's negotiations to end the war with Iran are going very well.
They are starting to give us the things that they have to give us. And if they do, that's great. And if they won't, then the man on my left is going to finish them off.
President Trump making that warning, sitting next to Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth at a cabinet meeting.
We can make a good deal right now, but maybe not a great deal. And if it's not a great deal, we're not making it.
The president says a framework deal with Iran would immediately reopen the Strait of Hormuz. He also says he is not comfortable with Russia or China taking Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky writing to President Trump and Congress. He's asking for a fresh supply of American-made air defense ammunition to counter intensifying Russian missile attacks. Israel says it took out the latest leader of Hamas following fresh strikes against the militant group.
Israel said